Today we're doing a deep dive into a really fascinating stack of whiteboard diagrams mapping out the carbon cycle.
No carbon is ever created and, no carbon is ever destroyed.
It just changes hands.
Exactly. It just moves. We're tracking this massive continuous exchange of carbon through the air, land, oceans, and living things.
So since it's a closed loop, let's just pick a starting point, right? Let's go with the atmosphere. Carbon is just, well, hanging out up there as CO2.
Yeah, an invisible gas.
Right, an invisible gas. But it doesn't stay there. A giant redwood tree, for example, pulls that invisible gas out of the air to build its trunk.
I mean, it sounds almost like magic, I know. But the mechanism is photosynthesis. The plant doesn't just passively absorb the CO2.
What does it do, though?
It actually uses the massive energy of sunlight to literally rip the carbon dioxide molecules apart. It strips the carbon atom away from the oxygen.
Oh, wow. Right? This is where the biological relay race starts.
Right, exactly. Enter the animal kingdom.
Yeah, so deer comes along, eats the leaf, and that carbon gets hijacked to build animal muscle.
Here, it gets burned for fuel immediately.
Yeah.
Inside the deer cells, and ours actually respiration is happening.
Which is basically photosynthesis in reverse.
Basically, yeah. The body takes that glucose, burns it with oxygen to release energy, and the byproduct is CO2 and water.
So every time you or I exhale, we're literally doing step 4 and tossing that carbon baton back to the sky for the plants.
Precisely. We're actively participating in this massive planetary exchange. And, even if that deer avoids becoming a meal and just dies of old age, biology has a backup plan to keep the cycle moving.
The decomposers.
Yep. Decomposers like bacteria and fungi, they break down the organic matter. That process fractures those complex carbon bonds, and it releases the trapped CO2 right back into the sky, completing that specific biological loop.
When we burn fossil fuels or forests, we are taking carbon that has been locked away for millions of years and, well, violently snapping it back into the atmosphere all at once.
And the sheer volume of that transfer is staggering, which brings us to the planet's primary buffer, the ocean.
The giant sponge.
Exactly. The ocean acts as a massive carbon sink. It absorbs roughly 1/3 of the atmospheric CO2. Well, the ocean isn't just holding dissolved gas. When CO2 hits seawater, it triggers an immediate chemical reaction. The carbon bonds with water to form carbonic acid.
Oh, so it completely changes form.
Right, it changes entirely. That acid then quickly breaks down into bicarbonate ions. So the ocean is literally a chemical sponge, constantly locking the carbon away in a new molecular structure, rather than just acting like a fizzy drink.
Wow, okay. So we've got this grand dynamic cycle. Carbon is continuously shifting from an invisible gas into massive redwood trunks, through the muscles of a deer, back into the sky, or chemically locked into the deep ocean.
It is a relentless, beautifully complex system of movement, and it's kept Earth's climate relatively stable for millennia.
Right. But here is a final thought for you to mull over. If this carbon cycle is a perfectly balanced loop where nothing is created or destroyed, what happens to the whole planetary system when one mechanism, like combustion, starts violently dumping carbon into the atmosphere, faster than the ocean's chemical sponge or the plants can possibly absorb it?
That really is the big question.
Definitely something to think about the next time you take a deep breath. You're holding a piece of that indestructible Lego brick. Makes you wonder where it's going next.